Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to look inside a MITRE attack framework, and we will try to understand how the threat hunting scenarios which are created are related to this MITRE attack framework. Like suppose while giving the interview or while tackling some situation, the persistence is created within the system. Some malware has created some persistence in the system. You will get to know. Or even after cleaning up the malware, system still shows up some presence of the malware. How the privilege escalation takes place after the MITRE session that you have got. And suppose that somebody asks you like how exactly the attacker or the payload collects a credential access from Windows or any platform, and something related to that. And even when we have some network traffic analysis, like suppose the attacker is connected to the LAN of the organization, and you can see that the other employees of the same organization is connecting to the same LAN, and then how would you define yourself, what exactly you would do in order to take further the steps to create some attack scenarios. So based on that, we will try to understand like why the tactics and the techniques are used, and what is the use of reading the softwares about the groups and mitigation steps, and also about the data sources. Like data sources are the sources from where the collection of logs are taken in order to understand how exactly things might have taken place over the network infrastructure at the network level, host level, and the proxy level. Okay. So if somebody is going to ask you the pointers of how persistence is created, these are the pointers where actually whenever attack is conducted, most common attack pointers are these. Like sometimes some Windows registry will be there that have got some modification, or some malicious executable will be there. So whenever the system is going to restart, the persistence of the malware will still be there, and with every restart of the particular workstation, or you can say a compromised system, the malware will definitely show its presence. Through browser extensions, it could be possible. Suppose that the attacker has created a local account within the particular workstation or the subnet. From that also the persistence can be created, and even if the fingerprints of the attack is removed, the attacker has already created a user account over there. So from that user account, it can also navigate or can make use of other tactics as well. Okay, so these are the things. And privilege escalation is also an important part, and mostly people are going to, while taking the interviews or while giving the interviews, people definitely ask many questions related to a privilege escalation, persistence, how defense evasion is created, and what are the pointers where you should look at the defense evasion the malware can usually do. Credential access will be there, about lateral movement, and the most common thing is like command and control. They also ask, and the impact is something which usually is dependent upon the APT campaign or any malware, what it is trying to get or achieve from that particular attack scenario. So that is something different. And we shall look at the lateral movement, like exploitation of remote services. I'll show you the remote services. You can see remote services like SSH, VNC, remote management, RDP, SMB. If you can see, like in an attack scenario, while doing the analysis, you come to know that these kind of remote services has been hijacked or is getting abused. This could be the reason that the payload or the malicious malware or the malicious software is trying to do some lateral movement, or even after some tool is also transferred on the victim system, some lateral movement can take place. Like from, it could be vertically or it could be horizontally, moving from one workstation to the other one. And yeah, through replication through removal media, like some infected USB is connected to Windows system or any operating system or any platform. From that also the multiplication of malicious software can also be done. Sometimes what user make use of is software deployment. They also deploy some softwares. And see, use alternative authentication. Okay, sometimes attackers also make use of alternate authentication materials like pass the ticket, web section, cookie. Okay, and I would like to show you about how mostly credentials are captured. Like in advisory in the middle, it's related to more like spoofing, and man in the middle. Sometimes brute force is also also happens, like there is a login page. You might have heard about doing SQL injection or cross-site scripting. Brute force is also there in order to understand what would be the response from the server end. And attackers also try to collect the password stores. It could be from the web browsers, from the credential manager of Windows, password managers if there is any. And most of the time they try to input capture like key logging. They can also do web portal capture, which is the same thing, like when you try to log in your credentials, whenever the user ID and the password is asked in order to validate it. From that, the backend, some malicious software is already installed in the workstation that you're working upon, and they can, using the key logger, they can capture the input that you're providing. And to that, network sniffing is also a part. Like suppose that you are connecting to a Wi-Fi which is at a coffee shop, which is not safe, and you might have connected because of some urgent work that you have to do. People sitting over there, or maybe the attacker, can reach out to the network sniffing using the tools like Wireshark and T-Shark. It can sniff the network packets and do see if the credentials are in obfuscated form or in a plain text, or what are the source IPs that are connected to that particular Wi-Fi. And OS credential dumping. Okay, let's ask memory. It's a Windows executable. Whenever you log in into your Windows operating system, this is a particular thing that actually stores and validates your Windows credentials. So from there also, users most of the time try to dump the particular credentials of that Windows, or maybe anything related to that. So one of the tool I do remember is Mimikatz, that is mostly used in order to dump the LSS memory so that the credentials can be later on extracted. And etc password and etc shadow, it's a folder from where in Linux operating system. So from there, most of the time we see the username and along with the hashes of passwords of that particular user ID. Okay, unsecured credentials. Yeah, this is the form which is very vulnerable. Like credentials, you might have stored some credentials in files. Some credentials in registries also present from the folders. Like there are 5 hives of registries. I do remember the most important one is the local machine, current user, and the user. So these are the things. And sometimes what happens is the attackers try to access or steal the application access token, or for the Kerberos tickets, sometimes they try to steal web session cookie, and also they do some interception in multi-factor authentication. Okay, so these are the things, after which we will look into privilege escalation and defense evasion. Okay, so in privilege escalation, the most common one will be like bypass of the UAC is most common. Elevation, sudo and pseudo caching is also a part. Like sometimes the attacker can check the history of that particular Linux operating system or Windows operating system in order to understand what exact execution in command line might have been done earlier to the particular state. And boot logon is also something that is available in persistence. This also helps to elevate the particular user which is available, the privileges of that particular user. And yeah, creation and modification of the system process is also a part of privilege escalation. Then what exactly happens? Exploitation of privilege escalation. Suppose that there are some CVs that while doing the analysis, most of the time people do also recognize some CVEs, and they come to know that this particular CV has this kind of a score, CVSS score like above 7 or around 8. So the particular CV is mentioning about this particular vulnerability is capable of doing some privilege escalation. So that could be also part. and process injection is also there, where process hollowing and DLL injection, portable executable injection is also done. And hijack execution flow, it is related to DLL loading, DLL search order hijacking. Okay, and what are the things like schedule task is also important, where schedule task and cron job is also used by most of the attackers on the Linux platform. Okay, so these are the things. Okay, so now we are going to look at defense evasion. What are the most common pointers where where the attackers mostly abuses? See here also some of the techniques, some of the tactics and techniques, not tactics, some techniques will be overlapped from one tactics to the other. So don't worry about that, because that builds up some connectivity from one tactics to the other. Here also we can see the bypass UAC is also mentioned, and most common one is deobfuscate and decode information, files and information is there. So exploitation for defense evasion is also there. Sometimes what happens is the payload, all the malicious payload or the ransomware tries to erase all the prints of all the fingerprints of itself into the particular workstation or on the network level, so that they can hide the particular artifacts of modification in the local system, and as well as they can remove the indicator on the host, so that it becomes for the analyst to analyze like if there is any modification or any abnormal activities within the system or not. The analysis becomes really difficult for us. Like in the indicator mover, mostly Windows event logs are removed, like logs of Linux and Mac. Command history can be deleted, or files can be deleted, or some timestamp can be changed. Some alteration on network shared connection removal. Masquerading on also happens, like some executable like explorer.exe, it can be written as double E or double R, but in the first place people usually or the users don't see it, like this could be malicious. They just think that this looks legitimate. They don't read exactly of the letters of that particular executable, and it could be like some legitimate process is being abused, the name of the legitimate process. And signed binary proxy execution, like obfuscation files or informations is also a part of defense evasion. Process injection is also there. And system binary proxy execution, see there are a lot of executables which looks legitimate and which are legitimate in the Windows platform. And what exactly happens, like attackers abuse it, and with the name of this particular executable behind it, actually the attackers try to do some malicious activity in the particular local system without even the user realizing that this could be malicious and this activity is going on the local system, and some malicious activity has already taken place or the system is compromised. Virtualization and sandbox evasion is related to like wherever the analyst deploys any malware for static analysis and dynamic analysis. And sometimes what happens, due to the sleep threads of that particular malware they have, actually it does not become very clear to the malware analyst like how exactly this particular malware or the sample is trying to activate itself, or what exactly behavior it is showing. So this could be sometimes like the malware actually tries to escape from that virtual system, or they are not exactly showing their true behavior to the analyst, and this could deceive the performance of analyst, and they may not analyze it properly and they may mark it as a benign file. Okay, so these are the important things. And apart from enterprise, people also look at Android, iOS, and sometimes Mac and Linux. Cloud network, a very rare thing that happens on the analysis basis. Okay, now we will look at these things, groups and softwares. Okay, so now starting with software. Like a very common one I'm going to take, which is, yeah, MITRE ATT&CK. Okay, this framework exactly tells you like how the malware variant is related to what other malware variants and which platform exactly it tries to affect most of the time, and what are the most common techniques that are used with this particular software in order to conduct any successful attack from the attacker's end. Okay, we will look at the view through Attack Navigator that is exactly showing you how it proceeds. Okay, as you can see, this particular software through Attack Navigator, we are going to understand like how exactly the mentality of attacker is, from which tactics till what end it is trying to abuse the workstation, or you can say the organization. What exactly is the motive of that particular attacker or the attacking group? We can see the software MITRE or the malicious software, how it initiates itself, mostly using the phishing one or through valid accounts, like some local accounts has been compromised, and after that they are doing execution. The most common one is also mentioned like command and scripting interpreter through any script or through scheduled task, or user execution is most common with phishing ones. Like users are definitely tried to the attackers try to lure the user's account or users in order to click on some particular malicious sample in the phishing emails or some malicious URLs. After that, how exactly this particular software tries to maintain persistence is by making some modifications on the registry run keys or on the folder of registry hive, like a startup folder. And we'll see, is there anything else? Yeah, also create or modify system process on Windows service, that we can see using the task managers, where we see the service and performance and drivers as well. And okay, so in the privilege escalation, it is also trying to show us the same thing. Okay, Windows service, and in defense evasion we can see what exactly it is showing us. Okay, it is showing us as obfuscated files or information where the software is packed. Okay, and it can be sometimes like the binary padding could be there, steganography could be there. Okay, so which means mostly MITRE tries to evade the its detection by packing itself, and after which it tries to do some credential access by brute forcing, password guessing, or by collecting the passwords from web browsers, or by doing network sniffing, and also utilizing or trying to dump the SAS memory so that the credentials can be extracted, and some credentials from the files if they are stored by the user on that particular workstation. Okay, the discovery, this particular software also tries to do some discovery sometimes, like for email account discovery, and network sniffing, process discovery. Okay, in order to understand what are the processes that are being run on the workstation, which can get compromised further or not. Lateral movement, for lateral movement, what has happened? Yeah, mostly on the Windows platform, SMB or the Windows admin share is compromised, and if there is any exploitation that can be abused to do remote services for lateral movement, it is also possible. And sometimes collection is also happening with this particular MITRE, and in that most of the time the email collection is done from the local workstation. Yeah, and recently MITRE has many times changed its techniques, but definitely makes use of command and control while dropping itself within the workstation and running the hidden script in that particular workstation to compromise it. It tries to then after connect to that C2 panel to external IP addresses. It could be using the encrypted channel or on a non-standard ports like any port like 8089 or 3000 something something. So it doesn't look like it is an a standard port. Okay, and if it connects to the C2 panel, from there, the most important thing for any attacker is the available data of that particular local system that can actually benefit the attacker, and from there they try to do exfiltration of the data over C2 panel, after which if they try to do any impact they create it. So based on this attack navigator and the chain that how exactly this particular software or APT campaign is taking place, the behavior is analyzed, and based on these things and the information that we get from the all across internet, basically from the Twitter, threat hunting people, they try to create the use cases, playbooks and scenarios based on that along with hypothesis, so that this particular situation if occur in future it can be analyzed well, and they at that time they don't need to waste any time for creating use cases, similar use cases or playbooks or related things. Okay, so we have seen it also tells you about many, this MITRE framework also tells you about many groups, and from there you can easily analyze the behavior of a particular APT campaigns or particular group. Like this particular APT-28, it is related to Russian intelligence. Okay, and the different associated groups are also mentioned over there. Techniques which are used most commonly, which are used and has been analyzed, has already been put into the MITRE ATT&CK framework for other people to make use of and create hypotheses. So as you can see, there are a lot of them. Let me see if there is any mitigation steps or not. Okay, references are also mentioned if it is related to the behavior, and softwares which are linked to this particular APT group is also mentioned, like what exactly are similar softwares or softwares this particular APT campaign usually uses in order to compromise the organization or to attack a particular target they have intended to. Okay, so enterprise mitigation is also mentioned. I usually don't make use of it, but people can look into it and it may help you, like whenever the attack is happened into the organization or you have identified the attack, the indicators of an attack. So after which the process of mitigation and remediation takes place by incident response people. So that time it does help those people that how exactly it should not happen in future for a longer period of time. And we are going to look at data sources. Okay, so as you can see, data sources helps the analyst in understanding the logs which they have collected from many sensors from the devices, so that the analysis can be done and indicators of attack and indicators of compromises can be understood for that particular behavior of that attack. Okay, so this is all that we have got information from MITRE ATT&CK, and you should try to understand that framework. Along with that, you should try to understand like even through Google or somewhere from wherever you can get the threat hunting scenarios, try to understand it. Like here I have collected one of the site sample where they have mentioned scenarios, putting as some hypothesis, like this is the first hypothesis, and they have provided the particular description of those hypotheses, like how exactly they have tried to create this hypothesis. So there are a lot of sample, and using those samples you can try to understand the behavior of any APT campaign or any software from the tactics and techniques that are given in MITRE framework. Okay, after which I'll try to give you a bonus step on making a use of OSINT framework. Okay, so this is the framework like OSINTframework.com that actually provides you a lot of embedded tools that are available online, which you can make use of. And sometimes whenever we have some username in order to search, that we can also utilize some email address we have if you want to understand if the email address has some verification or not. We can search. I mean, you can see there are a lot of tools in order to understand through open source intelligence or whatever information we can get from all across the Google. Malicious file samples analysis. Here we can see what for PDF, what analysis can you do. PDF tools are there. Okay, this PCAP, for PCAP we have this particular website. Like this is the website, you can see we have a lot of sample for PCAP sample for analysis. So, and for threat intelligence we are going to see. Okay, for TTPs you can see malware exploit database and MITRE TTPs, that is going to redirect you to the same framework. For phishing, what we have, okay, Fish Tank. Fish Tank is a website that provides you many stats based on that phishing. Like this is the information that we get, and this is a particular framework that we've got. Okay, it could not get downloaded. Okay, what exactly are the things? Okay, if you want some training related things like open source intelligence techniques, we will see what exactly we have. So you can see there are a lot of tools that can be used under this OSINT framework related to anything like images, videos, IP addresses, identification, or any dark web. Search engines are also mentioned in order to understand, like most of the information one browser cannot provide you. So you can link yourself to multiple search options for more information. Like, okay. Okay, yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for the video. Please like and subscribe. If you wish to get more cyber security related videos, please drop your comment in the comment box so that I can make any other related videos.